Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Indie Creative Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
Ooh, it is going, brother. It is Monday night, so you know what that means.
Interview.
Yes, another episode of the Indie Creative Spotlight, and we're excited to have our guest this week. If you already listened to our previous episode, not an Indie Creative Podcast, but just the one that we recorded this morning, we had some terrible losses there. Dude, I was dwelling on it for a while. I was just like, that's two big losses, and just a short amount of the year, 3 months into the year. But followed with some really good stuff with some reviews and stuff like that. So if you had to have a chance to listen to episode 187, we invite you to do that. You'll get a little bit of sadness from the man himself, Chucky Norris, and the loss of Sam Keith, a great artist. I did go and I picked up my book of the first issue of the Max, and I was just like, God, it's just such a loss. Great art in there. I miss the 90s and stuff. So, all right. But on a flip side, so we do have a guest for you by the name of Nathan Rouse. Hopefully I said that right. Is he shaking his head? Yes. He's shaking his head. No, I said it wrong. All right, let's bring him on in, and I can get the.
He'll tell us how it's pronounced.
In. Hey, what up, Nathan?
What's going on? What's going on?
How's it going, Nathan?
It's Rouse.
Oh, Rouse. Yeah, I knew I was gonna go with that, but I was
like
no,
house
punch thing in there or something like that. So yeah, I was completely off. I apologize.
That happens.
And why not? How are you?
Doing fine, chilling.
All right, cool. That's wonderful. All right, so I know that we're going to be talking about your book and your Kickstarter and stuff like that, which we're really excited to talk to you about. But we always like to go back a little bit and start with the origin story of Mr. Nathan Rouse.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See. All right. Cool. So give us a little bit of your history. So sort of like when you got into comics, what kind of comics you were reading and stuff like that. Why comics?
Well, I guess the very first time I ever read a comic was probably back in middle school. My friend had like this banged up Black Panther omnibus, and I didn't even really read the book. I'm just flipping through the pages. I'm just like, man, the art in here is awesome. And like after that point, I didn't like really get into reading comics until college. It was a summer. I was at Bethany College in West Virginia. And I was watching Justice League Unlimited, and I also watched the movie Superman and Shazam when they took on Black Adam. And
that was the animation, right?
Yep, the animation. Yeah. And my dad had called me up, and we started talking about like my family history and heritage and how we have Native American in our family and all this other stuff. And it was like a real like jokey type conversation. But I've always been like kind of in love with the Native American heritage and their culture. And I feel that, and a piece of me felt like I don't like see a lot of dope comics like that. I was reading Superman. I was reading Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was actually one of my favorites. And I was like, what if I could mix that together and come up with my own thing? And that idea just stood in the back of my head. And I didn't do anything. I didn't even create Jupiterman yet. What I did create first was a superhero named Defiance. It was supposed to be like an Afrofuturism story based on this astronaut that leaves Earth to save it, to find another world that they can, terraform or colonialize or whatever. And the essence of his soul merges with a star. And then he goes on like this Silver Surfer like story to kind of like save the universe. What I wind up doing is I was a college student. I was down on my luck and I needed money. So I sold that character. I sold the backstory and the character design to a guy named Theory Landslide of Orb Comics for $1,000. And he took the idea, he completely changed the character, scrapped the name, turned into something completely different. And once I found that, I was like, well, man, it happens. Like, I was like, nothing I can do. I sold the rights. But then I was like,
so I'm going to stop you. So you sold the rights to this character, Defiance. Yep. He changed everything about it, including the name.
Yep.
Does that still mean it's the same character?
No. Yes. Just because I sold the rights, I sold the rights to his name. I sold the rights to his backstory. He can do anything with that character, and I can't do anything with Defiance.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
And I didn't even. So what I didn't do, obviously being a college kid, I didn't read the contract. I didn't go back. I didn't look at the words, and it was like, you cannot touch this character. There are no loopholes. There is nothing. It's like, once the transaction has been made and you accept this $1,000, you can't do anything with Defiance anymore, and he can do anything he wants.
You and every comic creator from the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah. Look at Joe Siegel, right?
Yeah. I tried to do it again. I tried to do that again when I created Jupiterman. I wound up coming up with the design again, because at that point it wasn't really about reading contracts or learning anything. It was more or less about, man, I just made $1,000 just off this like $60 arts that I paid for, and and this idea that I came up with. I was like, maybe I can do this again and get another $1,000. So I create Jupiterman, and I try to sell him, and this guy hits me up on Facebook Messenger, and he's like, hey, instead of selling the character, why don't you collab with me and let's try and make a book out of it? You sell it for $1,000 and somebody goes and makes $1 million off of it. You never know. So then I do that, but then he really was just trying to utilize the character without paying me for it, is what I found out. And
was he an artist?
No, he was a writer of his own comic book universe. He was like just trying to bring my character into his universe. He made me write like a 10-page short story manuscript of like his entire arc, and he uses like 2% of it. And then what I find out from the writer is that he's not even paying the writer of the story. He told the writer that he was going to pay him off of the proceeds that he made, or the lump sum of the money that he makes after he sells the book.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so I'm paying for the art. You're not paying the writer. You're going to pay the writer after you and sell the comic books, and you're leaving me out to dry because you're not using anything that I've written. So after finding that out, I was like, I looked back at the contract and there was nothing holding me to it. So I was like, well, I might as well just go and make my own comic book. So by that point, the first book, all the art for the first book was already drawn. And I looked back at the script and, let me go back. So the art had already been drawn. All the words had already been lettered onto the book. Yep. And the book had already gone to New York Comic Con with my liaison. So the book doesn't sell at all. And I'm like, okay. So I already printed 500 copies. I sent it off to New York Comic Con. None of the books sell, so they're holding. And then I asked him, I'm like, why don't you think the book sell? And I'm like, and my liaison said, if I'm being honest with you, it's not a good story. It's not a good story. It's not well written. The captions are explaining everything. It's not entertaining. Like, it's not leading the audience anywhere. Right. And this is when me as a writer stepped in, because I've never written a comic book before, but I've been writing all my life. I've written short stories, I've written poems, I've written my entire life. So he said, if I were you, I would go back. I know you can't change the art, but I would go back into the story and just have the artist re-letter everything. And so I went back into the story, went to my notepad, and in every panel I'm saying, okay, so what does he feel here? What is he saying here? What does he think here? And I go back and rewrite every single page based off of the art style, which is something that Stan Lee used to do. But but I went back, I did that, and then I sent it back, and then he read it and he was like, now this is a story. So I've been studying and practicing comic books and comic book script writing ever since. I've written a couple of books. I don't know if you guys know who Ralph Madrigal is in Trade Injustice, but I wrote his scripts from issue 3 all the way to issue 8 for him. Also wrote a collab book with me, him, and a couple of creators that's coming out soon. I wrote a 250-page graphic novel called Henosis Authority that's also coming out with like 12 different creators, and I wrote it all myself. I'm writing something else with another creator called Shockwave. His name is Chandar Wilson. I'm writing a book right now called Shock United with a couple of indie characters together. So I've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, so, it sounds like it.
So what year was that Comic-Con, that first shot with the 500
That was back in, I want to say That was probably back in 2022.
2022. All right. So
Mhm.
4 years later, and it's
4 years
just
later.
it's grown.
Yeah, off to the races.
Nice.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm listening to you, and I'm having flashbacks because it's funny this market that we're in, like the indie market that I'm talking about.
Mhm.
It's big, but it's not big enough where people don't know each other or have
Right.
like common experiences. And oftentimes, when people are just starting out, especially if they don't have anything out there, the collab word comes up a lot. Like, let's collaborate.
Mhm.
And there aren't a lot of contracts. A lot of it is like verbal collaboration, verbal contracts. And I remember one time, and I'm listening to you, and I'm just like having flashbacks. So I had done this comic, and it was sort of like it was a zero issue of a
Right.
comic or something that was going to come out. And I remember an artist reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'd like to do a cover for you." And I was like, "Well, I've already extended my budget, don't have anything." He's like, "Ah, don't worry about it. I'll do it for free. And you'll have I'll get to keep the original art, and then you get it." And whenever I hear the word free now, I'm like, no, nothing
Right.
in life is free. And so I said, all right, cool, do it. So I gave him some samples, gave him the color samples of the character and stuff like that. And then he writes back a couple of days later and just says, do you have like the backstory for the character? And that made me go, it's art. What do you need the backstory for? It's just the cover.
Right.
So I said, no, you don't really need it. You got everything that you need for the cover. Like that. Like, all right, no worries. Dude ghosted me. So it ghosted me communication wise, social media wise. He unfollowed and blocked, but he had all my stuff that I had given him. And stuff like that. So from that point forward, it didn't leave a true bad taste in my mouth, but it just made me more cautious of when you're having interaction with other creators. I'll do quotations, other creators, and you're having an exchange back and forth of literally it's intellectual property. So even if you're talking ideas about your character, that stuff is just flowing to somebody else and stuff like that. So these days I'm more cautious of how much I actually share in regards to projects that I have on the table. And yeah, sort of like whenever I hear the word free, I'm just like, nope, click. Nothing in life is free and stuff like that. So, but it looks like you've learned some stuff along the way.
Yes.
Like what to stay away from and what you're really into right now. Before we get into that, talk to me a little bit about that journey of navigating those waters of uncertainty.
Well, funny enough, I've never been like attached to a certain community, whether it be like the African American community or blurs and all these different niches of groups that come together for camaraderie and togetherness. I've never really been a part of either. I've always been able to not necessarily coast, but I'm the type of person that can get along with everybody, even though I'm choosing who I choose to get along with. Just because I understand it really doesn't matter what you look like or who you are, but everybody can do like their own necessary, happenstance of dirt, or everybody can do anything to you. So you really have to like judge everything on a case-by-case basis. But I guess, I don't know. I thought getting into comic books that it was going to be a bit more welcoming. I thought it was going to be a bit less competition, or this guy is stealing this idea or that guy's stealing that idea, especially in college when it's like, I was the guy that got picked on in school because I love Superman and I was that guy. So
like all of us.
So I'm thinking I'm going to get into comic books, and it's like, I'm really going to start doing this now. So I'm going to meet with people that, we're going to share characters. We're going to come together and do collab books, or we can draw characters like fighting each other. We'll just be able to do that, and it'll be cool. Like no one's bigger than, anybody else, but I don't know, over the years, I've only been in it 4 years, but over the years, I've kind of seen a sort of like hardness that I can't really make out. And it's like some people, a lot of people are stepping with ego or pride first, and I guess that's something that you gotta kind of dodge almost. Like me, it's like an idea is not contingent on anybody. Like it's not exclusive to anybody. The same idea that I can have, you can have, or John can have. It's really the execution that makes it different. It's the imagination or the ability to bring it to form that makes it different. So if somebody comes up with like a Native American storm wielder at some point, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you stole my idea. You saw Jupiterman. It's like, hey, man, you came up with a Native American Black Adam just like me. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people don't feel that way. Like a lot of people are looking for, I don't know. A lot of people are looking for the out. They're looking for the camaraderie for their own stuff. They're looking for the support in their own stuff without giving it to others. And me, I've always been the type of guy to help where I can. Like I can't always give money, but I can always give advice. I can always help with writing. I can connect you to my list of resources, because over the years I built a list of artists that I can always go back to, writers that I can always ask advice for, and I'm always willing to help. But everybody is not willing to do the same thing, is what I've learned. And it's more or less about what they're trying to create than the overall community of creating. Is what I've learned overall. But it's taking some time.
Yeah, it's true. It's a lot of it is, there's not a lot of original ideas that are really captivating. A lot of it is just derivatives of something else, and sometimes people are inspired by stories that they've heard or seen, and then they add their own flair to it and stuff like that. So I get it. I mean, we see it all the time. And then you got people that are playing stuff really close to the vest, like they got the next thing that's like the next big thing that's like sliced bread, and it's just crazy and stuff like that. But going back, okay, go ahead,
really
John.
quick, just something he said there that I found very fascinating, because you said you had these sort of you envisioned this great kumbaya community of independent comic creators getting together and helping each other out, and everyone all for one kind of a thing.
Right.
And then you kind of got in, and it was a little more cutthroat, or a lot more cutthroat than it appears on the surface. Because from the outside looking in, it always, the people we talk to, they always talk about how great the community is, and right. But it's interesting to hear how something real from you, as far as like, there will always be those people.
Right.
Whether it's in comics, whether it's in film, television, theater, whatever, there will always be those people. And I think it is. I think it is. It would be great if all of the indie creators, did have this wonderful pie in the sky community, and that everybody was helping each other along from the goodness of their own heart. Again, it's not just the day and age we live in, but that does go back. As far as people have been creating stuff for entertainment, they've also been trying to capitalize on it and get cutthroat about it. And that's so that's always the dark side of the seedy underbelly of the creative community in general.
But that's also the difference between the creative and the business. So the people that are business savvy, the people that are have business on their mind, are looking at their IP to try to make money, probably not just in their medium, but expanding out to different mediums as well. So taking comics and then making it into a show or an animation, or and John and I speak about this all the time. And one of the things that we really appreciate about the comic medium is the fact that you can escape. So I'm similar to you. I started really heavy in the 90s with comics, when Image Comics came on board. I read stuff before then, but as soon as Image Comics was fully on and on board, I was on there with issue 1 of Youngblood, which was their flagship book, to everything that they got out from, what we call the extreme 90s. And I was an art person. So I looked at art, and if I liked it, I didn't give a shit about the story. The story could be crap, but as long as the art was really cool, I was into it and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's just, that business aspect of it, John and I talk about it all the time. We love the purity of the comic itself, the escapism of it. And oftentimes when we read comics, if a person's coming to it with the medium in mind, it comes across really well. You could tell that this was meant to be a comic book. And then we've read other comics that read like treatments for like a show. And, you know, they can be good, but we know that they want to do something else. So the soul of this thing is not, it's not pure to us. So can we be entertained? Yes, but we almost feel cheated because they didn't do it for this reason. They did it as a stepping stone for something else. And I don't knock people for their hustle. That's good. If they want to do that, that's fine. Oftentimes we can see through that. And it's not appealing to us in the sense of this particular form because we love.
And look, there's nothing wrong with wanting to create the next Walking Dead or Invincible, right? But I guess for me, it's like what shines through the most is, do you have a story that you really want to tell, and you hope that it gets that traction, or do you just want to cash in by making the next Invincible or
right?
Where are you earnest and honest about your approach to this?
And I would probably ask Robert Kirkman, right? I'd be like, when you wrote Walking Dead, did you see it as a show or anything like that? And I'm almost positive the answer is going to be no.
No, I was high on meth at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. That's probably what he would say. No, I don't know, Robert. I don't know.
See, now he's never going to come on the show, you son of a bitch.
Check out The Walking Dead and Invincible. Like, even through like the panel layouts, you can tell you can tell he's doing it for the love of the game of writing.
Of course.
In panel layouts, the dialogue, the reactions, it's like, no, you're doing this because you want to tell this story. And like that's the thing that I love about Robert Kirkman's writing. It's like the scenes and the way that he builds things up are so elongated. Like, people can go into the comic book and be like, nah, I'd rather check out the series just because of how long he plays it out for. But it's meant for that, for you to be encapsulated in the story and the environment. So you can tell he does it for the love of the game.
And it's meaty, it's long form storytelling, but it does have an end, right? You're not in for 1,000 issues. You're in for $150, right? 150 issues, right? And the other thing too, Robert Kirkman as a person loves comic books and loves comic book people. Like, he is that guy. Like, he used to be a comic shop guy, and sort of just, it comes from that world. So no. Whether he's a meth head or not, absolutely loves comics.
He's not a meth head. What are you talking about?
Well, then maybe you should come on here and tell us he's not. How about that?
All right. So really cool. And then so my point is that there are some bad eggs no matter where you go, but I think, have you done like comic shows and stuff like that or no?
I have not yet.
You have not tabled. All right. So when you table at a show, I guess it depends on what show too that you do. You're going to see a different side. You're definitely going to see a community that does come together, because every show, no matter what I've done, as big as Baltimore Comic-Con, and I've done as small as like, the mom and pop kind of comic show and stuff like that. And normally wherever you're tabling at, those people will come around and they will support. It's a really good place to network. You get to kind of hear the struggles of other people as well as their successes and stuff like that, which I think is really key. So I think this community itself as a whole is really supportive. It's just those bad eggs that come in and say they want to do something for free that we need to stay away from and stuff like that. That hurt the industry. And you think about the stuff that we need to do as independent creators, it's not just time, it's money too. So from what I understand, you're the writer, correct?
Yep.
Do you draw at all?
Nope.
You don't. He said that with like certainty. Nope, not at all. We're not. All right. So then you got issue 1 done with an artist. Talk about that.
And issue 2 done.
And 2. So talk about that process of like finding creators to help you bring your vision to life.
Man, it's a lot of cold calls. It's a lot of hey man. So really, I feel a lot of people say it's a hard process, but it's really not a hard process. I have like 3 pieces of criteria when it comes to looking for an artist. First piece of criteria is follow behind nobody. So whatever artist a bunch of people are going to, go somewhere else. Like, do not follow behind people for artists, because their relationship is different. The pricing is always different. And the quality that you might receive is different. Not to even mention the scheduling. If they're working with 10 creators over here, I promise you're at the bottom of the list. So do not follow us. So go and find your own people. That's the first one. The second one is always be upfront about what you can afford. Don't walk into somebody's DM saying, "Hey man, I would love to collab with you," and did it. Just be straight to the point. Be like, "Here's what I can afford. If this is worth your time, please, I would love to collab with you. If not, I understand. Go somewhere else." that's the second. And the third is always be upfront and always be true. Be real about it. Just put out your time points. Put out when you need stuff in. What art style that you're looking for. Have references ready for your characters, for your landscapes, for your story. Try to get them to love the story as much as you do. And every last artist I've ever worked with, no matter if it's a pinup, a cover, the comic book itself, they love the fact that they're drawing my stuff. They're like, "Man, I love your universe."
Nice.
And I appreciate that wholeheartedly, and it comes through in the work. It's like I pay them on time. I pay them the minute that they're done. When you can form a relationship with an artist to where you don't even have to pay them up front, they can send you the art and then you send them the work. When you build that relationship, then you know you got something rolling. And most of my artists roll that way. They can send me the art, I pay them on time, and then we're on to the next thing. But yeah,
So talk to us a little bit about the artists that you used for Jupiter 1 and 2.
So before I get to that, let me get the backstory. So the original artist that created the Jupiterman concept art, I was working with him at first, but some things that happened and he had ghosted me for a long period of time. And then I didn't know what was going on. He just stopped talking to me. What I found out later is that some health reasons had happened and he was just in the hospital for a time and he couldn't get to me. And then when I tried to ask him if he could start back up, he tried to upcharge me because he was doing crypto. So that did not work. I had to find somebody else. So I wound up finding Jeffrey Slice and Tizon. He is an amazing artist. And I hit him up. I told him everything that happened, from the artist ghosting me to him trying to upcharge me. The amount of time that I had was only a couple of months before I had to get the book to New York Comic-Con. He was like, "Okay, what's the deadline? How many pages have you already have done? Do you have concept art? Send me everything that you have, and I can get it to you within a month before you have to send it out." And this was like, he got it done in 3 months. He got all the pages done. 24 pages done. Color, letter, ink, and pencil done in 3 months. And I was like, "Where have you been, man?" And I've been working with him ever since. He's working on another book that I'm doing based off a character that I made for my girlfriend. He's working on that book. He's coloring and lettering the 3rd episode of Jupiterman that is done pencil and ink. He's the guy. He's the main artist of the Outerverse, and I don't know what I'd be doing without him.
And this is the same artist that did the art for the initial print run.
Yes, sir.
Where you wound up stumbling into the Marvel method without realizing it. Yeah, that's great. That's a great symbiotic relationship between writer and artist, that you guys found each other and clicked, and that he's your go-to. That's fantastic.
Yep. Every time he'll hit me up randomly and be like, "Hey, I was at the train station and I was just sketching Jupiterman and I just wanted to send you this." And I'll be like, "Hey," what better relationship could you have with an artist? But yeah, I pay him on time. We talk sometimes. Dope guy.
That's cool. So then how much detail do you give him and how much freedom does he have in interpreting the information that you're giving him?
I have formulated what I would like to say is my own scripting style, because I am akin to writing short stories and chapters and stuff. It's kind of hard for me to speak primarily on action panel to panel like a lot of script writers do. So I'm really just describing story panel to panel, like transition. Like each panel has got to be a paragraph, and the artist goes in and do whatever they want. Like they, within reason, however they see fit. They'll add a panel, take a panel away, show it to me. Then I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let me go back into the script and let me change this panel, move this around, maybe take this line out." It also helps me in my editing process because I usually just go in with an artist, do the pencil and inks. I've changed my process now, but I go in with an artist, let them do the pencil and inks first. then before I send it off to Colors and Letters, I will go in and edit the script myself, take a line out, place a line depending on how the characters actually look and the emotion that's being conveyed, and then I'll send it out. But yeah, that's pretty much how
does the script have dialogue when you send it to the artist, or is it just in paragraph format?
Oh yeah, the script has dialogue, but 9 times out of 10, the artists that I work with are really just focusing on the panel description, and then it's really on me to go back and switch the dialogue around. I have had artists that have read the
crazy. I love that's a wild method.
Yeah, I've had artists that will read the entire script and then it'll be like, man, I think the story is dope, and I'm like, I appreciate it, but I really want everybody to focus on where their strengths are, where their strengths are, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and tell an artist, if you think that this is what the character looks like, or if this is how the fight should be conveyed in this moment, I'm not going to tell you to go back and fix it. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna go back and fix the writing.
That's Stan Lee right there. I mean, literally, like books would be drawn out. There would be just panels on the page, and then he would write the dialogue after.
Yeah,
right.
Yep. That's
the art was done.
Yeah.
But the thing that people were talking about that made his style, a lot of people see his style as being exploitive, which is why I do it panel to panel, because they said he would just do a paragraph of the page. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that, because I feel like that puts a lot on the artist to do.
Not to mention that if Stan didn't like what the artist put on the page, he would have no problem changing that in the writing. Famously, him and Steve Ditko clashed heads on this protest scene, right? Where Steve drew Peter to be really angry at the protesters. Like, you guys should get a job because I'm Steve Ditko's analogy and, whatever. But but Stan was like, well, no, I mean, people really, we don't want Peter to be like yelling at protesters. Right. So Stan softens it in the dialogue, and then that sets them on their road to,
right. And I sometimes things like that'll happen. I mean, not as aggressively as Stan and Steve, but there'll be times where there's like an emotional expression that I really want to be brought out in the panel, and they might draw it with like a simple smirk other than a laugh or something. But really, I don't think I've ever worked with an artist that wasn't able to capture what I was writing down. That's why I'm so detailed in each panel, because I want you to know, like, the way I see it and the way the artist sees it is going to be different, but I want to convey it so specifically, so where there has to be like some mesh somewhere, and then there won't have to be like a big edit somewhere. So I haven't worked with an artist yet that has steered me wrong, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I mean, some of the designs, especially for like the gods and stuff like that, I really, really like. What was your direction for that? Was that direction, or was that like his idea?
So all the concepts that you see for the gods were the concepts of the original artist that I worked with before Jeff. And when I was talking to the original artist, his name was Ari. But when I was talking to Ari, I wanted a psychedelic feel. I wanted something that was otherworldly. Like, I didn't want the guys to be depicted as human. I wanted them to be depicted as the representation of themselves, to kind of be like a higher spiritual awakening, like a trip almost. Which is why, Jupiter is, he looks like a lightning bolt, and Pluto looks decayed, and all those other things. But yeah, that's kind of what's fed into the concept of of their design.
Yeah, I liked it. It was pretty cool. And then what about the design for Jupiterman?
Jupiterman, oh yeah, that's a straight mix because I personally love Black Adam. Like, he's one of
the influence there.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite villains / anti-heroes, one of my favorites. And I'm not gonna lie to you, there was a piece of me as a kid when I watched Superman and Shazam take Black Adam on. There was a piece of me as a kid that wanted him to win. I was like, oh, he looks so cool. And there was also a piece of me when going into creating Jupiterman that was like, every time I see any character tied to a certain ethnicity or culture, they were kind of like the poster child of that culture. And I don't know why something like that didn't really sit well with me. Like, I don't feel every Native American character needs to have feathers and the regalia. Like I know there are some that do, and I respect that, but I don't know. There's a certain piece of me that's like the culture is a part of them, but it's not who they are. Almost like it's not their. It's hard to explain, but it's not like they're.
They don't have to wear it as a uniform.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there are some people like you'll see like Luke Cage way back when he's dressed in like the hood Parliament chain over him, and it's like, okay, but like that's a part of him, but that's not him. Right. And I kind of wanted to say if the Native American culture did have their own Superman, what would he look like? And it's intertwined into who he is. Like he doesn't really know his heritage too, so that's lost upon him. He's kind of assimilated almost, so he doesn't know who he truly is, which is why his costume is blank. Like it's just black and gold, and it's like he doesn't have all the feathers because he doesn't know like his true kinship. Like he's not connected to it.
It also is a very utilitarian superhero suit.
Right.
Yep.
Which is what is tied to his backstory. So yeah.
So is that represented in the story? His struggle with not knowing who he really is.
So the premise of Jupiterman is a Native American man that's tricked by the government to be a superhero. So what you're seeing in the first episode is the digital simulation that's placed in his mind. That's what he believes. That's what he believes he's come from. That's how he believes he got his powers. All of that is fake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as the story starts to go on, he starts to figure out more of the truth, where he comes from, who his parents are, how he actually got his powers, what his powers are connected to. Everything you're seeing is like he has a VR headset on, and that's what he's being fed.
Oh, nice. So there's gonna come to a point where he's gonna break.
Yes, when you see that in the third episode.
Okay. It's all the great archetypes. It's the everything you know is wrong, the reboot built into the Weapon X stuff. Like then of course the Shazam aspect of it. No, right. It's all of those great archetypes. That's really fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think having that, for me, it's always, John and I, we talk about this a lot.
Right.
You know, what captivates us in the story. So one, for me, because I'm an artist as well, I look at the art and I'm always looking for different things that make me say, oh man, wow. But since John and I have been doing this for more than 5 years now, just reading books week in and week out, you know, there's not much that we've not seen.
Right.
And there's been few times where we've been like flabbergasted and just like open mouth, just like, you know, we've seen tropes just come and go and tropes flipped on their head and be like, oh shit, I didn't even know you could do that with a superhero anymore or something new. And I think for us now, when we're looking at stories, it's what makes it really tangible for us and how does it hit us emotionally so that we can connect to it. Because there's a difference when there's a child reading a comic book who's just escaping and just like, oh, this is pretty cool superhero, as opposed to an adult who's still escaping, still, you know, has that nostalgic of, you know, growing up with comics, but at the same time, looking for the rationale and the irrational. And I think that's the emotional connection that we try to make. And for me, it's always, what is the protagonist struggling with? And what do they need to overcome other than the physical barriers of, you know, a bad guy or whatever it is. That, you know, the bad guy of the week or whatever it is. And it sounds like, and having all of these like, Black Adam, the Native American background, the government coming in, and him being in the middle of all of this, which is not real, and him questioning himself at the same time, what is real, is a really cool struggle to me. And I think when that all unfolds, you know, with all like the superhero ability and all that stuff, that there'll be a really big fucking, just, I don't know, just an explosion of body parts flying all over the place, similar to like what happened in Invincible. Which, have you seen it already, Invincible?
Yes, I have to get back into reading it. I watched the whole series as it came out. I love the series.
Oh yeah, season 4 just came out too.
Yep. Yep. I'm loving that series so far, and I'm actually watching it, re-binging it. Yeah,
dude, bloody as hell. Go ahead.
So you write. Before you got into the comic books, writing comic books, you were writing short stories, novels, prose fiction.
Mhm.
Jupiterman you conceived expressly as a comic, or was there that point where you were like, is this, you know, it was conceived as a prose concept and you're like, you know what, maybe I can make this a comic?
You know, funny enough, well, when I was working with the first guy that was like, hey, let me help you turn this into a book, and I wrote that 10 pages of his arc, the story that you guys have now is ridiculously different than what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't going to be a Native American man who was tricked by the government to be a superhero. It wasn't going to be that until I actually came up with the concept of the Idleverse. Originally, it was going to be your run-of-the-mill mythic story. He was chosen by the Roman gods to be this symbol, and he helped Native American people for a long time, and he thought that he went to the cave to hibernate because he had to let humanity run its course. But because there's my brother, he's also in the Idleverse with his superhero character. We were talking about it, and then he was like, "That's been done." Like this, like, it's like that's. I mean, it's cool, and I feel like you get the right artist, it's going to be a cool story. But it's like there's got to be something else you can do. Mm-hmm. And me, I'm always trying to think outside the box. I'm big into existentialism. I'm big into conspiracies and otherworldly things that can be brought down to like a grounded level. And I'm big into cartoons. And I feel like cartoons this day and age aren't the same. Like I grew up on He-Man. I grew up on Brave Star. Mm-hmm. I grew up on Ben 10 and all these things. And I was like, what if I could take all of that and put it into a universe and then just start writing the story from there? And then that's how Jupiterman became what it is. Like the Idleverse is a sandbox of everything that I love. Conspiracy theories, aliens, and cultures, and everything in a melting pot. And the question asks, what if everybody is right? Mm-hmm. Every religion, every thought process, every philosophy. What if we can create stories built off of that? And then that's what Jupiterman became. Like taking the story and flipping it on its head. What if he believes that and the government's manipulating him to believe it? Well, why would they do that? Because what if they're using the excuse of superheroism to do what the government does? Always try to pull a wool over the regular man's eyes, stealing from their pockets, trying to manipulate them into doing what they're wanting to do. Superheroes are the distraction, but we have to make superheroes believe what they're doing is inherently good.
I caught, in his civilian identity, I got Brave Star vibes from that. So that's really cool to hear that was an influence. Also like a little bit of a talking about Chuck Norris, a little Walker, Texas Ranger vibe as well. But I was like, oh, that's like Brave Star. That's very cool. Other kind of influences that I noticed, there's definitely, so the art is beautiful, dynamic, really captures that superhero mythical vibe. And the story is really neat. It's, you dip your toe into topical political hotbed stuff, but you don't really fully dive in, so it's still entertaining, right? But it also feels very much to me like a lot of the comics of the 80s, the DC Marvel output of the 80s. Again, I get a lot of like Captain Thunder vibes when you mention the Native American Black Adam. There's that when DC didn't want to use Shazam in that Superman issue, so they do Captain Thunder, and it's all Native American vibe out the wazoo on that. You also do a great technique when a character's introduced, you get their logo. I think that's really cool, like in the dialogue. And again, wearing influences on their sleeve, correct me if I'm wrong, but the president of your of the United States in your Idleverse is Jerry Conway.
Yes, sir.
Famous comic book writer Jerry Conway. And I love that. I think that is such a really cool in-joke, if you know kind of thing. And I think that's great. And again, that was my meat and potatoes of comics growing up as a kid in the 80s as well. So it's like I really vibed with that. I really resonated with that. So good job.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's, which is so crazy because I'm about to be 24 in July. But that's like all the stuff that I grew up with. And it's like, what if we had that now? Like kids growing up they're not going all the way back.
24. How did you grow up with He-Man?
That's all I watched. Like that's all I watched. That's all my dad was watching. He was watching.
How?
He was watching.
They're like half our age. I grew up with He-Man.
My dad was watching Thundercats. He was watching He-Man. we had antenna TV. We didn't have cable, so
it's your dad. That's what it was.
Right, exactly. So we were watching all the old 80s stuff, all the old 90s stuff, and that's the stuff that I grew up on in the Saturday mornings. I wasn't watching. Everybody was talking about Ben 10, and I was like, okay, so I'm the only one that knows about Lionel. Okay, cool. It's like I'm the only guy. So
and then when those reboots were happening, right, in like the early 2000s, you know, like you were like, no,
some of them were
the
okay.
original stuff.
Yeah, the original is far better. Yeah.
Especially that opening for Thundercats was just
definitely
best. Did you ever watch Silverhawks?
I know about Silverhawks, but I never got into it.
All right, so that'll be your homework. Because if you like the Thundercats, it's right up the same alley. It's just it's Thundercats in space.
Dynamite is doing a crossover, Silverhawks, Thundercats as well. We talked about it on the show.
I did see that, and I was really into Space Ghost too. And I just read the Space Ghost comic that came out not too long.
Yeah, Space Ghost I was like in and out of because every now and then he would be like, I watched it on Cartoon Network because he was doing like he had that Space Ghost show. And that always threw me off.
Well, that was
talk host.
It's like that was the thing with the Cartoon Networks, the Adult Swim stuff. If it's like if you didn't know that they were riffs on these old 60s cartoons, like that was your end. You thought, oh, Space Ghost was this guy who has a cartoon talk show, makes brownies, but yeah, so it's very it was like C-Lab 2020 is one of my favorite ones from the Adult Swim. And a lot of that, those reworking, those remixes, a lot more entertaining than the original stuff. But yeah, the original Space Ghost cartoon is really cool old 60s comics, man. It's a lot of fun. Or cartoons.
Yeah, ultimately that's what creates Jupiterman, and ultimately that's what creates the Outerverse. Like taking everything that I love, now that I know what I want to do with it, taking everything that I love and then just flipping it and turning it into different stories, flipping archetypes on their head. I always want to work within the gray. So there are a lot of things that Jupiterman is going to do that people won't agree with, or that are going to have people thinking, or you like the fact that he's a sheriff that has, like this love connection with an inmate. Like, it's like, what is like, how does that even work? Why would that be a thing? It's like, there are a lot of things like that are going to happen. And even more, even as the truth starts to come out, and it's like, how is he dealing with all this? Like, how is he connected to all this? What does it mean? And I think ultimately going on this story, because it's so hard to get through the haze of indie comics and finding your audience and all that other stuff. But this is the one thing that I'm good at: writing stories, just exploring my own world, because as much as it is an escape reading comic books, it is such an escape writing them. And just, sometimes I'll be taking a walk around my neighborhood and I'm not even in my neighborhood. I'm on Mars. Like, I'm just like, what if Jupiterman, which is another story that I'm writing, Jupiterman is on Mars and he's doing stuff with like the Martian Birdman. And there's like so many different stories and places that my mind goes now. And I love exploring.
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds like you have the creative on lock. You've got that portion down. So now, but there's the other side of it as well. And we talk to every single person that comes onto this floor, especially like when they're, really great creators. They don't often think of the business side of it. Right. And it takes capital to make this thing happen. So I'm always talking to people in regards to, are you in the red or are you in the black? If you're in the red for a little bit of time, anywhere between, anybody who starts a business is going to be in the red probably for the first 3 to 5 years. We pretty much know this. Once that 5th year mark happens and we don't start creeping into the black, you can only bleed so much red before you can't bleed anymore. Right. So there's 2 things I want to ask. One, do you know how the story ends? Does the story have an end? You don't have to tell me how many issues it goes, but do you know how Jupiterman ends?
For sure. Definitely.
You do. All right.
Yeah, definitely. I have an ending for it because it interconnects with like so many other stories. But the way I write is episodically. That's why I call all of my issues episodes. Because me personally, I do have an aspiration for my series, the one day be animation, because that's the elk that they're built off of. But there are so many, but as I'm writing this series, I'm also writing other ones and I'm producing other ones at the same time. So they all interconnect. So it's like you'll read this one and it's like, hey, this information, check out this issue, and then you can always go back and, you know, for reference. But ultimately there's a big project with Hancock that is in a comic book right now, and it's at the end of Jupiterman's issue. So Jupiterman almost causes the end of the world, and John Hancock has to create a superhero team to save it.
Okay. Yeah,
So
it's all good. Yeah, I normally ask that to creators, because creators who are like, oh, it's open-ended, I'm just let it be. If you do that, there really isn't anywhere to go. But
right.
if you know the ending, and I can't remember for the life of me who was the creator who said it. He's like, I know the ending. Whether it takes me 2 issues or 162 issues to get to that ending, that the ending's not going to change.
Right.
Whatever happens in between then can be as long as short as I want. So they can stop it whenever they want. So as long as you have the ending in mind, you know how it's going to end, then it doesn't matter what you do in between or how long it takes to get there. I think for most creators.
So as far as the Idleverse is concerned, right now, it's the 2, soon to be 3 issues of Jupiterman are the beginning.
Yep.
I know second issue of Jupiterman has the backup with some really cool Batman and Superman analogs. I like those guys. They're cool.
Thanks.
And then so then you'll be branching out some more Jupiterman, and then give some other folks a shot, and then kind of have a big culmination at that.
Yep.
What you're working towards?
Pretty much. So yeah, like you said, the episode 1 and 2 of Jupiterman, 3 is coming out. Aegis, I would say, is kind of like the Wonder Woman analog. That's a character. Well, I forgot to tell you a good part. In the Outerverse, what we do is we bring our fans into our comic book universe.
I was going to mention that at the back of the second issue, the people who they're based on. I love that.
So a lot of people that I had talked to in college, I told them, I was like, do you want to be in the book? And he's like, how? I was like, just send me a picture of your face. I'll make a character, whatever character you want to be, and then I'll just put you into the story. And that's what I did. One of my football teammates, he was like, I like Homelander and I like how he runs. I was like, let's make you like a Homelander type character. So he became Homestead. Another football player that I was playing with, he said he likes Batman mixed with Red Hood, and we were watching Flashpoint Paradox or something like that with Flash, and he was like, yeah, I love Batman with the red and everything. I was like, do you want to be in the book like that? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, I made Braven for him.
Yeah, I see that.
My girlfriend wanted to be I wanted to create a character for my girlfriend, so I made her Aegis, and she's getting a solo book that I'm working on. And yeah, so we've been doing it like that for a while, and more people have come into the Idleverse since then. And the universe is growing. But yeah, I'm doing that, connecting the books or intersecting the books, and then at the end, I'm super happy to bring Hancock, as he's going to be the new, I guess you could say, flagship character of my universe, which is going to be really cool.
So it's really cool. So you have this up on Kickstarter now, correct?
Yes, up on Kickstarter.
So issues 1 and 2, right?
Yep.
All right, great. Yeah, so I think it's on there. I'm going to actually put the link in, guys, so that when you see it, it'll be down in the description. I think you have about 19 days from today.
Yep.
And it's like you're almost funded there as well.
Yeah, about 50%. Yep.
Yeah,
50%,
so that's good. Yeah, and this is your first time on Kickstarter, correct?
Second
time. Yep. And we're not. All right, cool. Yeah. So you're using Kickstarter as
the pre-order system.
As a pre-order system, and this will help offset some of the costs that you incur when you're making the book. I think it was not too long ago. I think John, we were talking to another creator. It was like, the average issue, if you're looking at 22 pages, it's probably close to $3,000. If you look at it from what you're paying the artist per page, and it depends on what you're paying the artist per page, then print on top of that, and then mailing on top of that. People don't take in all those calculations. They don't take in mailing supplies. They don't take in time you're sitting there to write the script. You oftentimes creators negate themselves. So you're working for free and paying everyone else, but your time is not free. So it gets calculated into that cost as well. And $3,000 per issue is generous. So if we look at the actual cost, it can actually be quite more depending on, and a traditional comic is anywhere between 20 to 22 pages. Some of these Kickstarters that I've been seeing have been in the 30s and 40s. So now you're kicking it up. And you go from, like, we do mostly black and white comic books because it keeps the cost down.
Right.
And drawing black and white is different than drawing for color. There's a different technique that you use. And there's a different kind of mood that it brings. It brings the price down significantly. So once you bring color into a page, it brings the cost up even more for printing and stuff like that. So if you're printing 500 copies or something, depending on who you're using and stuff like that, that could be anywhere between, you're not getting $1 per book. I'll tell you that right now. Right. It's probably going to be anywhere between $1.89 to $2.89 per book. And if you multiply that by whatever, cost of shipping and everything like that, dude, you could be in the hole for, like, it drives me crazy just thinking about numbers, because it took me a long time to get there from just thinking of the creative. Oh man, all I want to do is draw. All I want to do is draw. All right, now I got to get this out there. Give me money, I got to print it. Give me money, you got a table at a Comic-Con. Give me money, you got to get mailing supplies. You want to buy hats, you want to buy shirts. It all costs money and stuff like. You want to make animation? Oh, I can't even think about what an animation would cost and stuff like that. So, have you thought about those kind of numbers and crunching? Because obviously you're vested. You paid for 2 issues probably out of your pocket.
Yep.
Which that just makes me want to lose more and more hair, because that's crazy. And it's, we don't see it because oftentimes it's done in chunks and it's done in manageable chunks. But if you look at the overall investment, oftentimes when I get creators on, I want them to put their business cap on and say, okay, what's the ROI? What's the return of investment eventually down the road? Because there's passion, but there also needs to be discipline. And the discipline is, all right, how do I, make this sustainable so that I don't have to keep paying out of my pocket all the time for this? I don't need to, be a millionaire, because most people who do comics will never be millionaires. But how can they break even so that they can keep doing what they're doing without going into a hole? 24, bro, you're I swear you're in a really good place. 24, 25, because once you hit, like, daddy, family, putting bread on, food on the table and stuff like that, those are other things that creep in and stuff like that. We have full-time jobs and stuff like that. And as indie creators, we have all these other obstacles that most working creators don't have, because they're focused full-time on what is it they're doing. So, Kickstarter is a great start to being able to offset some of that cost. What I often tell creators is, all right, you have Kickstarter, at the same time, grow your fan base. Because the more that you can grow your fan base and push them towards Kickstarter, then the more successful those campaigns will be. And a lot of the times, unfortunately, we've had creators on who haven't been successful with Kickstarter because, 1, no fan base. 2, what they're asking for is out of range of what they're capable of, because there is no fan base for it. It's such a crazy, like, just measuring and weighing all these different aspects that come into creating something successful. The best thing about you, where you're at right now, is you have 2 finished issues. So when you have, and then whenever I use Kickstarter now, whenever we use Kickstarter, we're the same way. You'll see a lot of projects on Kickstarter that say, the artist has just started to work. Here's some concept art. This is what we want to do, because they want to pay the artists through Kickstarter and all that stuff. So they want to raise the funds for that. That's cool for people that have been established for a while. It works for them. But us, like similar to you, whenever we put anything on Kickstarter, that issue is done.
Yeah, it's finished.
It's done. So that way, once it's funded, all I got to do is put it into the mailer, or I'll send it to the printer, get it from the printer, send it out to the mailer. And hopefully that quick turnaround will let me launch the next Kickstarter within a month and a half, 2 months tops. Because that's what makes Kickstarter different from, direct market distribution, which is comics are coming into the store, or your comic is coming to the store every month. Kickstarter doesn't work that way. And we said it before. There's how many people are you competing with out there in the world to get not just shelf space maybe on a retailer shelf, but the attention of people to say, hey, here's my money, let me get my comic and stuff like that. and if it's not monthly, we've had creators on that it takes them a year to get out an issue, and by then, how many people have you lost?
Right.
I cry myself to sleep sometimes just thinking about this stuff, because I love it so much, but there's so many obstacles for us, and a lot of the times it's because if you think about it, you're not just a creator. Now you have to think about all of the stuff that goes with creating a universe, but then also the physical copies, all of the fans that you have to be able to entertain at the same time to say, hey, stay along with the ride. I promise you it's going to be worth it. Right. So from what John and I have seen, dude, you're off to a really good start. So, I mean, we really wish you a lot of success because there's some really cool stuff in there. I mean, stuff that you've done with, taking friends and people and putting them into the comics. Fucking genius. We've done it as well. We've run competitions. People love it. They love it. They love seeing themselves in comics and stuff like that. Which is really cool. And you have a really cool concept.
You want to throw Angel and I in there as a couple of meth heads or mob thugs?
Dude, what is going on with meth heads? Are you on meth again? Oh God. Yeah. So listen. Yeah, you got a really cool story. You've got a really good foundation. I hope this is successful for you because you got a good start here, Nathan. Really, really good start.
I want to see the Saturday morning cartoons. I want to see your stuff become Saturday morning cartoons.
I saw the animation. Who did the animation for you? That was pretty cool.
Actually, I do all of that stuff. I don't do animations. I'm not gonna lie. For all the people out there that hate AI, I'm sorry that you hate it. Okay. But that's what I do.
That's all good. Yeah,
it's a sizzle reel. Cool. You know what? It's a sizzle reel. It's a marketing tool. Did you
come up with the lyrics for the words?
Yes. I came up with lyrics for the words. I have a background in graphic design, video editing, and everything else. Mm-hmm. So everything else that's stitched together, the transitions and everything else, that's me. The animation alone is AI.
That's all, dude. We're in that age now. As long as it's not 100% of the art and stuff like that, using artists.
Oh no, it doesn't touch anything.
It's all good. It's all good. So. I know we're going over now, but it's just other questions that I have because you're doing everything yourself right now, right? Yeah. Writing and all that stuff. So do you have an extra set of eyes that look at the stuff that you're creating?
I have a couple of different philosophies on the question that you just asked, but I always get people to read my scripts. My partner that I work with, like the book, at the ending of the book, the two, like the kind of America's Finest book that you saw between Braven and Amorai. Amorai is my brother's character, but yeah, he reads my scripts sometimes. I go back and reread them. My girlfriend reads my scripts. It's very hard to find beta readers. I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult. But I don't know. I don't know if other writers get this feeling, but there is a feeling that you have when it's like, stop touching the script. Just release it. Just give it to the artist. Let them do what they do. Just release it. And I might go back in after seeing the art and edit it, but you come to a time where you understand no matter the medium, no matter the art form or whatever, it's all subjective. Somebody can look at a squiggly line and say, oh my gosh, it's a Picasso masterpiece. Yeah. So I've gotten to a point, and I don't know how right this is. I guess I'll find out with time. Yeah. But people can look at the best book that's ever written and say it's boring. Yeah. And I'm like, if you don't like what I'm writing, then I can understand that. Yeah. And depending on the view of of how you feel when, after you read it, then I guess I can understand that. But at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing with the story. And that's not from an arrogant standpoint, because a lot of people have read the book and I've gotten both books and I've gotten a lot of good feedback. But to the people I've literally only gotten 2 negative comments about the book, which is crazy to me. Because I look at the book and I'm like, this is not my best work. Like both of these were rush jobs. Right. Like I'm not gonna lie at all. But to send it out to so many people and to get so much positive feedback, not only gives me so much like overflowing confidence where it's like, wow, maybe I am kind of good at this. Yeah. It's also like there's going to be people that say it's not my best work, but you want to know what? There are also people that hate Mike Millar's work.
Yeah. No.
Alan Moore's work.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a mouthful of stuff. Yeah, but no. I'm not. So that's more like ethereal kind of feedback. Right. It's more anecdotal. So oftentimes when I'm talking about, especially with creators and especially writers, because we're so close to the vest with the info, oftentimes we don't see where things are going or if things don't make sense. So when you work with an actual editor, all the emotion is taken out of it.
Right.
It'll be, the technical stuff will be grammatical stuff, but the overall, does this arc make sense to what's coming next? Are you setting up something? Like, is this thing that you wrote here going anywhere, or is that a throwaway? Maybe this could be shortened down. You spent 2 pages talking about this when it could be actually just 1 page. Is this going to be in the next issue? Is this referencing? And then as you go into later issues, are you straying away from the original story kind of thing? So when we read work, when I'm reading my colleagues' work, I'm never reading it from I think this is really cool. Even though I might think it's cool, it's more of, this doesn't make sense, bro, here. We changed this. Remember the last issue? We're not doing this anymore. So it's the overall story, especially when it starts to grow bigger and bigger. And when you start to expand out into a universe, if you don't have those extra eyes that are looking and have your back, as a single creator, we can miss a lot of shit. Because you know where it is? It's here and here. It's in our heart and it's in our head. And oftentimes what we see and what we've written down in the paper is not how people are interpreting our vision and stuff like that. Right. And I think having a really solid, like, you can give it to your friends. I think sometimes comic book readers are good as well because they're reading a comic and they understand how comics are structured. But when you give it to somebody who doesn't really know the medium and they're reading the story, if I give it to somebody who's not read a comic, what's the first question I ask them? What was the story about? And if they can tell me what the story was about in their own words without me telling them, and it's a non-comic book reader, fuck, I've done my job. That's cool. Good. If they go if they give me a whole scenario, a whole synopsis of something that I did not write, I'm like, holy fuck, what the fuck do I need to do? Go back kind of thing. So that's how I use the two different, like the professional, they'll tell you, okay, this makes sense. You're going in the right direction. You talked about this, the sequence works and stuff like that, or you may want to switch this around kind of thing. They'll make you think. You don't have to take their advice, obviously, because you know what you want to do, but you have an extra set of eyes is looking at structure, is looking at the format, looking at the medium. And then you have fans that you can give stuff to, and they can give you that, anecdotal feedback. Oh, this was really cool, bro. I like this.
I guess over time, I've kind of gathered 2 different mindsets towards that. Like the first obviously, I believe over time, if this thing does grow to be bigger than myself, then I would definitely want people in on it from the professional standpoints and money standpoints. I really just can't do that now. But that's one side of it. The other side is, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of the adverse to editing and the people that say that editing is needed, just for the simple standpoint that everybody interprets everything differently from the sake of learning and from the sake of subjective art, interpreting. So I kind of want my work to be the subject of the masses. Like, I want people, the Outerverse is built off of a myriad of interpretation. So I kind of want people to read it and look at it and to think hundreds of millions of different things and have debates about what it means. Because sadly, in today's time, the opinion of everybody matters. Like, it's true. Like, whether it's social media,
it doesn't matter. It's just heard.
It doesn't matter.
Or everybody thinks their opinion matters.
Exactly. Everybody believes their opinion matters. So I would honestly, in particular, this day and age, where I guess professional critiques and everything aren't really taken as importantly as they should be, I would rather leave my work to be subjective to the huge, pile of people that might read it. Just because there's going to be, it'll either be a 50-50 split to people saying that Jupiterman is awesome or Jupiterman sucks, but people are going to be talking about him.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not trying to imply that, you know, having an editor is going to make things better. There's
no,
some
no.
editors who suck. There's some editors who, you know, will take your work and not understand what it is that you're trying to do,
right.
kind of thing. I just like when you have extra set of eyes that aren't thinking like you're thinking, will give you something else to think about,
right,
as you're progressing forward and stuff like that.
And I'm not. A lot of artists have done that for me too. Like I've given the script to. I gave, when I was writing the 3rd episode, and I gave the script to the artist. He literally like deconstructed and reconstructed the entire page. Like it was a fight scene, and he like took, and he was like, I think if we segmented it here, here, and here, and I had to go back and completely restructure the entire script. It was like, would he even say that here anymore? I got to move this around, delete this line. So I think natural editing always happens along the way. And over time, I always send the script. What I'll do is I'll get the pencil and inks or the script. I'll put the letters on it and I'll send it out to people that are willing to read it digitally. And then they send me back their feedback. Anyway, these are professional comic book creators that I send it out to. Some of my mentors. So.
No, that's good. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's usually peer-to-peer stuff,
right.
Especially at this stage. You know, having a professional editor costs money. Yeah, you can't afford it, but oftentimes it's peer-to-peer, and oftentimes they give us, you know, there's all feedback is good, whether we use it or not is what matters. So as long as when I get nothing back, it's useless. But if I get something that I can reject or something that I can use, then I'm in a better place. But yeah, as long as you're using like peers and stuff like that, it's really cool, because I think the more that you can get pushback from people to really force your ideas to come out, I think the better. Because we can be in a bubble and just like, oh, this is the next Odyssey. This is the greatest epic of all time. And then you throw it out there and people are like, what the fuck is he's just been in the bubble. But if you get that feedback, you know, this was great, you could push here, you could push there, it gives you stuff to think about. And you're already doing that, which is good. It's great. That's what we need to do.
And it's, you know, Angel has a mantra that he shares a lot of times with younger creators is it's not always going to be perfect. Just get it out there. Get it out there so people can see it, you know. And then as a creator like yourself, Nathan, you know, you have your plan, your outline, your map, but you're also malleable to change, to redirect and pivot when need to. And in combination, you know, because as a creator, you strive for perfection all the time. That's your goal. But you recognize too that just because it's not up to your standards of perfection, the person who's experiencing it, the person who's reading it, is coming at it with a whole new, fresh, different set of eyes. It's it could hit, and it could land, and it could resonate with them, and they're not going to notice the imperfections, you know. And that's always a tough thing, I think, as a creator, that hurdle you got to get over. So the Angel's advice is just like, get it out there. Life's too short. You might drop dead before you get this thing if you're dickering with every little line and punctuation, you know.
Yeah. And you have to change one word, John. It's not a goal. It's perfection is not a goal. It's a curse for us. And we're always trying to attain it. And it's true. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be finished, especially when you're doing month-to-month comics and stuff like that. But yeah, listen, Nathan, it sounds like you have a really good start at something here. We're really excited to kind of watch your journey. Guys, the link's going to be in the description for the Legacy of Jupiterman issue number 1 and 2. Looks like he's about halfway to his goal, about 2 weeks away and stuff like that. So got to get him to the goal so that we can get these copies into your hands.
It's good. It's Nathan, good classic feeling comics, man. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And they're finished, which is freaking crazy. It's unheard of. All right, Nathan. So before we end this, is there anything else that you want to get off your chest? Let these people know. Social media, where can they find you? Where can they find your books?
Well, you can find both the episode 1 and episode 2 on Indie Planet. All you gotta do is type in Jupiterman. You can find me at the Idleverse and Mr. Unchained Unlimited on both Instagram and TikTok. And as always, don't forget, go beyond and look to the sky.
Ooh, I like that. All right, Nathan, listen, as soon as the Kickstarter is done or down the road, if you want to come back onto the show, John and I would love to have you, give us an update on what's, life gotten thrown at you. And, we'd like to see issue 3 and stuff out there.
Awesome.
And we're not. All right. Thanks for being on. All right, guys, that is the end of the show. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast. Better yet, invite 100 of your closest friends to come and watch the podcast with you. If you want to be on a podcast like Nathan was, your creator, want to promote yourself and or a project you got coming up, go to indiecreatorcomics.com, fill out the form. John and I would love to have you on. If you're on social media, Indie Creator Comics, we're all over the place. And last but not least, support your local comic shops, because without them, we would not be able to do what we love to do, and that is read comics week in and week out. All right, kiddos, until next time, thank you for joining us on the Indie Creator Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics.